Hey guys, this is Coach KP, and today I'm going to talk to you about death. I've been very curious about death, and in a sense that just like I've been all my life curious about life and the meaning of life, I've been curious about death and what this all means. And in the last few years, I've really asked myself what my comfort level is of dying at any given moment. And I'm not speaking from a dystopian, fatalistic standpoint. I love my life. But at the same time, death is such an inseparable part of coming to this body, coming into this body, that it's just kind of natural for me to think about that, right? So one of the things that I had struggled with is unnatural death, right? One of the things that I struggled with was what happens to us when we die sort of in a flash, say a car accident, or I had a motorcycle that I sold because I was, one of the reasons was because I was afraid of dying abruptly because people are driving very crazily here in the Boston area. So I had been increasingly getting more comfortable with the idea of dying, because as you learn that death is just a blip in the grand scheme of things, and it's not the end of anything, it's just a beginning of a new life. If you subscribe to the idea, which I do, and you can call it reincarnation, whatever, but I was in my mind evaluating what would dying mean, and I'd gotten increasingly comfortable with the idea of dying a natural death. But this idea of dying an unnatural death, where I don't get to sort of put a closure around my life, was kind of bothersome to me. And I was just recently talking to my friend about this as well, and we had an interesting conversation that triggered me to make this video. So it all changed for me when I got this book, Death: An Inside Story by Sadhguru. That one of my cousins actually recommended this book to me, and I know I've been following Sadhguru for a long time. I get most of what he says. I sometimes may or may not agree with everything he says based on my experience, but I know that the man has a wealth of information of spiritual nature of life. And after reading this book, it was clear to me that he is, at least by my standard, the authority on the topic death. And I've been going back and forth. As you can see, I'm about halfway into this book, not even halfway, but kind of sort of halfway, between this book and the book Karma by Sadhguru. And I can say that these books, if you read them side by side, it makes a lot of sense. Because there's concepts that both books borrow from each other. Maybe Sadhguru did that on purpose. So, long story short, in this book, Death, there's a chapter that talks about understanding life and death. And Sadhguru breaks down death like no one's business, right? So, what Sadhguru is pointing to in that chapter is how there are 5 different sheaths in our body that we only see the first sheet, the Annamaya Kosha, or the sheet that's made out of food, literal translation of the Sanskrit term that Sadhguru uses in this book. So that's the first layer, and then there's 4 other layers, and these layers are the Annamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha, which is the emotional body, and then there is the energy body, the Pranamaya Kosha, which is what we know largely in the Western world as the energy body. When somebody is referring to energy body, that's what they're talking to. Or the next body, that's the etheric body, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and then the Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss body, right, which Eastern traditions have talked about for a very long time, the Anandamaya Kosha. So I'm not going to go into every single one of those sheets, but I am going to have to elaborate on the Pranamaya Kosha, because when Sadhguru explains how people die, then you got to talk about the yogic breaths, the 5 yogic breaths that are attributed to the third sheath, the Pranamaya Kosha, the energy body. Okay, so the 5 different types of breath, and these are yogic breaths. I'm sure people that have been learning yoga, the yoga principle says the 5 different breaths are the apana vayu, vyana vayu, vyana apana, udana, samana, and one more. Let's see, vyana apana, samana, udana, and prana vayu, of course. So when people talk about vayus, these are the 5 vayus they're talking about. And what's interesting is then Sadhguru goes to break down as the process of death, and when people die, how life gets released from each one of these sheaths, and when it reaches the third sheath, the energy body, how slowly actually the dying process goes, even when the death seems to be instantaneous, right? People do not leave their body. We do not leave our bodies in that flash, like Hollywood and most of these movie industries would get us to believe, right? So when our life starts to leave our body, it starts at the samana vayu. That's the first type of breath that leaves our body once the breathing stops, once you're clinically pronounced dead, right? So the slow process, and this is Sadhguru, I'm paraphrasing, slow process of the 5 pranas exiting the body will begin. Of these, samana vayu is in charge of maintaining the temperature of the body. So the temperature of the body is the thing that goes first. And I'm not going to read this entire thing. I may actually make a screenshot and place it here for you guys to see. But the idea is samana vayu leaves first, and then the prana vayu leaves second, right? Prana vayu is the respiratory action and the thought processes, right, of the body. And then the udana vayu is the vayu of the flight, right? Between 6 and 12 hours it takes. So samana vayu takes 21 to 24 minutes to exit the body. And then the prana vayu takes up to 64 minutes, right? Within 64 minutes. And then udana vayu takes another 12 hours. Sorry about the pause. I had to read that because I don't have this second nature to me right now. So and then apana vayu 8 to 18 minutes. 8 to 18 hours. So apana vayu is still active in our body even after the breath leaves us between 8 and 18 hours, depending on the person and various other things that Sadhguru talks about in this book. Vyana vayu is the last vayu, and it's the slowest to exit, right? It'll continue to do so for up to 11 to 14 days. So up to 14 days. And until you have the udana vayu in your body, the third type of vayu in your body, the chances of you coming back into your body and actually coming out from the dead, so to speak, is there, right? So that's probably the reason in Christian religions where people get buried, the undertaker spends all night watching for these new graves, because the dead may actually come out and get back into their body. Because one of the things that Sadhguru talks about in this book is how in Eastern traditions, when you place the dead body onto the ground, due to the energy produced by earth, the corpse can actually come back to life, because some of these vayus have not exited, and once this energy body gets energized through the energy coming from the earth, people come back to life once they're presumed dead, right? So long story short, Ted gave me a lot of insight into my struggles. Like, okay, so even if the death is abrupt, it's not that we leave our body abruptly. And what Sadhguru says is, when we have the awareness, right? A step above the mind is consciousness, awareness, right? And people that meditate, they know about what awareness is. And that awareness can resolve a lot of our karma, prarabdha karma, the karma that we need to, we're allocated for this life if we haven't done that. And if we've done that, we can also work on karma from the bigger store, the sanchipta karma, which is the karma from the accumulated karma, the overall karma that we have. So a large number of that karma can be worked out during those times using our awareness, using the energy body, and by the help of these vayus, leaving our body at certain times and not all at once, just like that, which I kind of fell into believing, right? So that has been mind-blowing for me, and I wanted to share this. I know not everybody's going to appreciate death, and maybe not everybody's going to even watch this video, but that's okay, because life and death, they're a part of the same thing, right? I mean, death is not, like I said, is not the end of everything. It's just a beginning to something else. And there is really, even though we are so, and I'm hesitating even saying this, because I've been so conditioned to thinking that death is done. That's it. You got one life to live. But that's really not the truth. And the sooner we can understand death, or even think about how we are living, and in the grand scheme of things, what all of this means, that right there is sort of kills your ego a little bit, right? It gives you perspective on pain and suffering and what we are here to do, and ultimately that's what propels us, right? That's what gets us into our body and to working towards what our purpose may be in this planet, which is so conditioned to believe that we're so conditioned to believe in this planet that we are here to make money and accumulate things after things after things, and that's what a lot of people, including myself, for a long time got conditioned to believing. So hopefully this made sense. Check this book out, Death by Sadhguru. As you can see, I have tried to laminate this by myself, because I really want to have this book as a reference for a long time, and the other book, Karma. All right, so that's all I have to say today. This is Coach KP. Peace.